Hi and welcome. In this video, we will talk about how you can modify datasets that you have imported into the ExploreLive module. We'll briefly introduce the concept of modified dataset before presenting the functionality of data subset and manipulation, whether it's the modification of existing variables or the creation of new variables. Here I have an ExploreLive session in which I have already uploaded two datasets, demo.csv and books.csv. All the datasets that you import in ExploreLive are available for creation of plots, tables, and any kind of analysis that you would like to run in those submodules. But you can also create modified version of those imported dataset that will also be available in those modules. To create a modified dataset, you need to go to the Subset and Transform Content tab. You can create up to 10 different modified datasets. And so the first thing you need to do is select one of those 10 slots in this first drop-down field. So I'm going to select the first one. I'm going to skip this field for now to talk about the last selection field, which allow you to select which of the imported dataset is going to be the source of your modified dataset. I'm going to select the demo.csv for now. There are two different types of manipulation you can do in this tab: data subsetting and data transformation. We will start by talking about data subset. The way you subset data primarily entail the creation of a valid R conditional expression, and you need to create this, enter this expression in this field. So you need to be careful about what you type, because R is a case-sensitive language. So here I'm going to type a very simple conditional expression. I will only keep the data for subject to have an ID below 1500. And I will create my modified dataset by clicking on the Save button. ExploreLive will now create or open two different panels. One that will provide you with a summary of the modified dataset, including the number of rows and columns. And the bottom panel will give you more a spreadsheet-like view of the dataset, where you can scroll across the different columns. This is literally the same panel, the same functionality that you would see in the content or the View Content tab, which provide a summary of the uploaded dataset. So you can see that the original dataset contained 2,320 rows, and the subsetted dataset contained only 1,044 rows. You can update your expression as much as you want. But you need to click on Save to update your modified dataset. So in this case, I've used an invalid case to define my ID variable, and ExploreLive will tell you that there was a problem in the data subset, and it invites you to check why your data subset was wrong. So I will correct that. Save again to revert to the previous modified dataset. I will talk about next about this field, the skip field. This is another layer of subsetting. It's more like a filter, actually, that applies after the subset has been implemented, and it allows you to keep certain records among that data subset. There are 5 different filters that you can apply. The default is to keep all the records of your subset, but you can select one of the other 4 filters, whether you want to keep the first record per subject, the last record, or use a combination of the subject identification variable and covariate if you want to keep only the record that without any duplicate combination of subject ID and covariable, or if you want to keep only the records that do not repeat. So to illustrate those 4 different concepts, I'm going to switch to the KIWI manual. Here we have a little data set with 3 subjects. I'm going to mostly talk about the first subject 1. So that's the original data set, or what you would get if you were to select the old record in the subset. If you choose the first record per subject, ExploreLive will only keep the very first record per ID. So in this case, this record, and this record. The opposite option is to keep the last record per subject. In case that would be at time 4 in all the subjects. So you can see the difference in the time variable. Now, if you want to use those combination of subject and covariables to further filter your subset, you can choose between the no covariate duplicates and the no covariate repeats. So the difference is mostly visible in this first subject. So in this case, we have so our ID variable and 2 covariable cov1 and cov2. You can see among the 4 records, we have 2 records that are that have the same combination of cov1 and cov2. The second and the 4th record have different values. So if we choose the no duplicate option, we will end up with 3 records for subject 1, because this record here will be excluded. This is a duplicate of the very first record based upon ID, cov1, and cov2. If you select the last option, the no covariate repeat, you will actually end up with all the records from subject 1, because even though there is a duplicate combination of ID, cov1, and cov2, this duplicate happens after a change in the combination of ID, cov1, and cov2. So this first record is different from the second, which is different from the third, which is different from the 4th. In subject 2, you see 2 records because this second record here was the same combination as the first, so this record was eliminated. So I hope that give you a quick overview of those filtering options. The one thing that you absolutely need to do to use those filtering options is at least you need to select this variable that defines the subject ID. And if you want to use the option that involve covariable, you will need to define which of the variables you want to consider for this filtering. So in this field, you can enter as many variables as you want. So you just type in or you select from the drop down. I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use the option of first record per subject. I'm going to save. And now I end up with only 48 records. I'm just going to briefly mention the possibility of sorting the data set before subsetting is performed. Sometimes it's beneficial to change the sorting order of your data set, and you can select one or more variables from this field. And you can also revert that to the original sorting order after the subsetting is performed. So the second type of data modification is the creation of new variable or the transformation of existing variable, and this is done through this right column. And to demonstrate that, we will create a second data set. But before we do this, I want to briefly talk about this nickname field. You may have noticed when I clicked save, ExploreLive automatically provided a name for this modified data set. This name will be displayed in the field, the data selection field in the plotting, table, and analysis submodules. And sometimes, modified data set is maybe not the most meaningful or useful description of your data modification. So you can provide any kind of name that you want for this data set, and this will be used for designate your modified data set in the submodules. So if I change my selection of modified dataset slot, everything will pretty much revert to a default state. And at this point, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use that little grid here to create a new variable. So I'm just going to create, enter the name of my new variable here. So I'm going to type in new. And on the right column, I'm going to enter a valid R expression. So a valid R expression could be as simple as a single value, or it could be something a little bit more complex, like an if-else statement. If you want to transform a continuous variable, like age, for example, into something a little bit more categorical. So if you want to consider intervals of age, you can create this dichotomous variable that would be 1 for any subject with an age strictly lower than 50, or 2 if the age is greater or equal to 50. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to scroll down just to show you that my new variable is available here. And it has a mean value of 1 and a max value of 2. The thing that you can do also is modify an existing variable. So I'm going to do something that is not necessarily super useful, but let's say I'm going to modify my ID variable, and I'm going to set all subject to subject 1. And look at the summary of the ID variable before and after I save. Now, all my subjects have a value of 1, so the minimum and the maximum value is 1. The same way, you need to be careful about the case and the validity of your expression, like you were supposed to do in this subset expression. You need to be also careful here in this expression. So if you enter something that is completely meaningless to R, when you save, you will get a warning here telling you in which expression of the table a problem arose. So you just need to kill that, and maybe also kill that to return to something more useful. The last field I'm going to talk about is this transformation timing field. You can actually perform those transformations before or after the data subset is implemented. And by default, the transformation is performed after a subset, but it is sometimes useful to perform the transformation before. And that is particularly useful if you need to create a variable that you want to use for subsetting. So let's say here I wanted to subset by new equal to. So keep only the record for the subject that have an age greater or equal to 50. I'm going to save that. And if I look at my age variable in the subset, you can see that now my minimum is 50. And my new variable is only equal to 2. So this way you can combine transformation and data subset.